The Bhopal gas disaster. How a pesticide plant leak became the worst industrial catastrophe in history. How did a single chemical leak in Bhopal spiral into the deadliest industrial disaster in history? In the heart of Bhopal, a pesticide plant hummed with the quiet rhythm of industry. It was 1984, the same year Apple launched the Macintosh, a symbol of progress. But inside the Union Carbide India Limited facility, something far more dangerous was brewing. The plant produced pesticides using methyl isocyanate, a chemical so toxic that a single breath could sear your lungs shut. To make matters worse, they stored it in massive tanks. One of them was labeled E610, the source of the deadly methyl isocyanate leak. The tank sat there, a silent giant holding a volatile nightmare. Safety systems were supposed to keep it in check, but those systems had been failing for months. A refrigeration unit was offline. A scrubber designed to neutralize leaks was broken. A flare tower meant to burn off escaping gas was under repair. The plant had cut costs, trimmed maintenance, ignored warnings. Therefore, the chemical sat there, unstable, waiting. On the night of December 3, 1984, water entered the tank. A reaction began. Pressure built. The safety valve opened. And then, a cloud of death rolled out into the sleeping city. But why was this chemical so dangerous, and how did it escape? December 3, 1984. The same year the Apple Macintosh launched, a symbol of human ingenuity. But in Bhopal, a different kind of breakthrough was brewing. Inside the Union Carbide plant, tank E610 sat holding 40 tons of methyl isocyanate. A routine water washing operation began on nearby pipes. No one noticed the isolation valve was missing a safety disc. Water surged into the tank. Methyl isocyanate reacts violently with water. The heat built. Pressure climbed. A worker saw the gauge rising, but did nothing. By midnight, the tank was screaming. The safety system, a vent scrubber and a flare tower should have neutralized any leak. But the scrubber was offline for maintenance. The flare tower was disconnected. The refrigeration unit meant to keep the chemical cool had been shut down months earlier to save money. The concrete safety net had holes everywhere, so when the pressure finally blew the relief valve, there was nothing left to stop the cloud. The gas spread rapidly. But why was the plant's safety system already failing? Subscribe for more untold stories behind history's biggest disasters. The plant had layers of defense. A scrubber designed to neutralize toxic gas, but it was on standby, its chemical neutralizer never deployed. A flare tower meant to burn off leaks, but a section of pipe was missing, leaving it useless. A water curtain to knock down gas, but it could only reach a fraction of the height needed. Therefore, when methyl isocyanate began escaping from tank E610, the source of the deadly leak, every safety system was either broken or overwhelmed. The alarms did sound, but they were turned off after a few minutes, dismissed as a false alarm. Workers had no warning. The gas spread silently, invisibly, a creeping cloud of death. With no containment, the gas engulfed the city. What happened next was even more shocking. Thousands fled into the night, their lungs on fire. The streets of Bhopal became a river of the dying men, women, children, clutching their throats, gasping for air that had turned to poison. Hospitals were overwhelmed within minutes. Doctors had no antidote, no protocol for a cloud of methyl isocyanate. They could only watch as victims collapsed in the corridors, their eyes burning, chests heaving. The dead were stacked like cordwood outside the wards. No one knew how many had fallen. Estimates would later climb into the thousands, but that night the only number that mattered was the one still rising. The world learned of the horror slowly. Newswires carried fragmented reports, a gas leak, a pesticide plant, a city choking. But the scale was unimaginable. In the days that followed, relief efforts stumbled. The plant's owners offered little guidance. The Indian government scrambled to treat survivors, but the long-term damage was already done. Tens of thousands would carry the scars for life. Yet the disaster's aftermath would reveal an even darker truth about accountability. The blame game began before the gas cleared. Union Carbide pointed at sabotage. The Indian government pointed at negligence. But the real question was simpler. Who pays for a catastrophe that killed thousands and poisoned tens of thousands more? The answer took decades. In 1989, Union Carbide settled with the Indian government for a sum that seemed staggering, but survivors called it a pittance. The company walked away, leaving the plant site untouched, its toxic waste still seeping into the groundwater. Therefore, the legal battle didn't end. It just shifted. The Indian government pursued criminal charges against former executives, but the cases dragged on for years. Witnesses died, evidence decayed, the accused grew old. Then, in 2010, 26 years after the disaster, a court finally convicted 7 former Union Carbide India Limited employees. They were sentenced to 2 years in prison, 2 years, for a leak from the E610 tank that had turned a city into a graveyard. The verdict felt hollow. The company's American parent remained untouched, its assets protected by corporate veils. Compensation trickled down, but never enough. The plant itself stayed abandoned, a rusting monument to accountability denied. Yet for survivors, justice remained painfully out of reach. Why? The disaster exposed a system built on assumptions. Safety systems were disabled to save money, but the real cost was measured in human lungs. The plant stored methyl isocyanate in massive tanks, yet the community had no warning sirens, no evacuation plan. When the gas hit, people ran into the wind, straight into the poison. Therefore, the response was chaos. But the world took notes. In the years after, chemical regulations tightened in the West. The United States passed the Clean Air Act amendments. Europe demanded worst-case scenario planning. Yet in Bhopal, the legal battle dragged on for decades. Convictions came long after the evidence had decayed, the witnesses had aged, the corporate memory had been scrubbed. Accountability arrived too late to matter. The deeper lesson: industrial disasters are not accidents, they are decisions. Each disabled safety valve, each ignored warning, each cost-cutting measure was a choice. But the same logic persists today. Plants in developing nations still operate with fewer safeguards. The same chemical that killed in Bhopal is still produced, still transported, still stored near homes. The question is not whether another Bhopal will happen. The question is where and when and whether the world will finally listen. The answer may surprise you. The leak came from tank E610, a single storage tank holding methyl isocyanate, a gas so lethal that a few breaths can kill. But the plant had been cutting corners for years. Safety systems were offline. The flare tower was under repair. The scrubber was on standby. And the water used to wash pipes that afternoon. It found its way into the tank. The chemical reaction was violent. The tank began to heat. Pressure built. Inside, the gas turned to vapor and screamed through a faulty valve. No alarm sounded. No siren warned the city. The cloud rolled out into the night, silent, invisible, and deadly. Bhopal was asleep. Thousands lived in shanties right next to the plant fence. They woke to burning eyes, choking lungs, and a sky that felt like acid. They ran. But running only made them breathe faster. By dawn, the streets were littered with bodies. The dead numbered in the thousands, the injured tens of thousands, and the gas kept spreading. How did one leak spiral into catastrophe? Because every safeguard had been dismantled in the name of profit. Because the company knew the risks and chose to ignore them. Because the city had grown too close, and the response was too slow. The disaster was not an accident, it was a verdict. The lesson is brutal but clear. When you cut corners on safety, you don't save money, you spend lives. And the bill always comes due. In 2010, 26 years after the leak, the convictions finally arrived. But for the survivors, justice was a word that had lost its meaning. The same calculus of risk and reward plays out in other industries today, in mines, in factories, in supply chains you never see. The names change, the pattern does not. Stay curious, stay critical.